Republican leaders to extend those Bush tax cuts. Obama calls it a compromise. Some liberal members of his party aren't so sure. Joining me now, Democratic Senator Kent Conrad. He's chairman of the Budget Committee and just completed his work on the President's Deficit Commission. Senator, great to see you. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Good to be with you.
Well, the question that certainly the House Liberal Caucus is asking is the President giving away too much just in order to get the temporary extension of jobless benefits? Is he giving up too much to accept all of these Bush tax cuts for millionaires?
You know, the president has to deal with reality. The reality is there are not the votes to limit the tax cuts to those with less than $250,000 of income a year. So the alternative is to have taxes go up on everyone. And the best economic analysis we have is that that would hurt the economy next year, perhaps cut economic growth next year in half, and also lead to a sell-off in the markets. That would not be helpful. So, look, if there's a temporary extension of all the tax cuts, what really matters is what comes next. Is there a grand bargain to deal with the deficit and the debt long-term that has as its core element fundamental tax reform in this country?
Do you think such a grand bargain is possible? Is that deal out there?
I do think it is. You saw on the commission, 60% of the commissioners vote in favor of the report, even though it was hugely controversial and individual commissioners didn't like all of the elements of the plan. I certainly didn't. But that it's going in the right direction. It reduces the debt $4 trillion over the next 10 years, gets the debt under control, and 60% of the commission voted yes, including 5 of the 6 senators who were members of the commission and 5 of the 6 presidential appointees. So I think there is a template there, a blueprint for what could be the basis of an agreement.
Now, John Kerry was on Meet the Press, and his point seemed to be that Senator McConnell is expecting all the give to come from the Democratic side. Let's see a little bit about what Senator Kerry had to say.
All he talked about was the need to come to them. All he talked about was if they can do something that makes us comfortable. That's not how you compromise. They need to have a little discomfort.
So is there a point there? I mean, what are the Republicans giving up here?
Well, in terms of the commission, both sides gave a lot of ground. So both revenue was affected, as well as the entitlements, as well as domestic spending. Everything was being on the table, and everything was being affected in order to bring the debt under control. I think what Senator Kerry was talking about was just in the tax discussion.
Well, exactly that. In terms of the tax discussion, they don't. Exactly. They don't seem to be giving up anything. I mean, I think that's the criticism from some of your Democratic colleagues, that in this tax deal, this compromise that perhaps the Gang of Six or whatever gang is negotiating, that it's all give on the Democratic side. They're getting the unemployment benefits, but what if they'd played a game of chicken and waited till the very last minute? Would the Republicans have been forced to back down rather than seeing the jobless go through Christmas without getting their unemployment benefits?
You know, in terms of unemployment, Congressional Budget Office tells us extending the benefits is the single most important thing we can do to keep the economic recovery going. And that's because 2 million people would otherwise be cut off, and those are people that actually spend the money they receive. So that's highly stimulative to the economy. But, you know, I think it is a fair point that Senator Kerry is making, and the Republicans are going to have to ask themselves. It's one thing to be in complete opposition when you're in the minority in the House, Senate, and Democrats control the White House. It is quite another matter when they control one body, the House of Representatives, as they will next year, and Democrats have slight margin in the Senate, because then everybody has to be responsible, because everybody is going to be accountable.
Now, there does seem to be the outlines of a deal, but quite a bit of rebellion on the part of the House Democrats. Nancy Pelosi's had a hard time controlling her caucus. They're angry, and they are the biggest impediment right now to acceptance of this deal. What do you say to Nancy Pelosi, to the Speaker, and to the House Democrats who think that they're not getting enough from the Republican side in this tax cut deal?
I would say to them what I believe, which is, frankly, what happens in the short term is a whole lot less important than what happens in the long term. And as part of any long-term agreement, I think all of us know we've got to dramatically reform the tax system. And really putting that on the agenda of the country is much more important than any short-term extensions.
A point that the Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke actually made last night on 60 Minutes. Another point that he made was that he didn't see improvement on the horizon for perhaps 4 or 5 years in terms of this unemployment, that it really is now structural. And the most disappointing thing, of course, the great tragedy is the large number of people who have been unemployed for more than 6 months.
You know, Andrea, I am a deficit hawk, unreconstructed, always have been. But in this circumstance, I favor a payroll tax holiday, which the Congressional Budget Office tells us could help create 2.5 million jobs next year. I think we seriously have to consider that as part of a long-term comprehensive plan that also gets the debt under control.
Thank you so much, Senator. Appreciate it.